so we get 3 now.
Nice.
First game, 1 o'clock, Indianapolis Colts, 4-8-1, going into Minnesota Vikings, who are 10-3. Vikings got a 4-point favorite here, rightfully so. I was wrong last week with Vegas giving the Lions 2.5, and the Vikings covered that. So it's probably similar boat here. Vikings are the better team. Colts aren't putting up points like the Lions were. It's not divisional. They don't know the team that well. Colts are coming off a bye, and before that, they probably had the worst fourth quarter in the history of football. They were playing pretty well against the Dallas Cowboys. Fourth quarter comes around, they get like 5 turnovers and let up like 30 points in just the fourth quarter against the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think it's going to be that bad against the Vikings, but I still think the Vikings win this one, just being more talented and more ready to play football. The Colts coming off a bye is a little bit of worry, though, because they are getting healthy on defense, which they need, but I still don't think it's enough to slow down the Vikings here, especially they need a win. They want to keep on the right track of being a good football team.
Yeah, the Colts. Looking at the injury report, they're pretty much the healthiest they've been all season long. Injuries have really, especially on the defensive side, like you highlighted, have been an issue for them. The Colts haven't lost when they've scored 20 points or more on the season. They're 3-0-1, one tie against the Texans, first game of the season. It's just they haven't gotten there very often. And it's tough. It's tough. If there's a recipe that I could see, we talked about it before. Slow down Dalvin Cook. Anytime he's struggled in a game, it's led to a loss for the Vikings 3 times this year. All 3 of their losses have come when he's been under 40 yards per game. So that's kind of the recipe I can see there. Vikings defense hasn't been great at all. I think they're in the low 20s, mid 20s, statistically, majority part. But there are some categories where they're doing decently. Ed might touch on those, but I'm gonna go Vikings here. I do think they cover, like in a 24-17 type of situation. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little magic in there with the Colts, and maybe it turns into a 27-24 game because the Vikings, quite honestly, like to play close games. They do it a lot. How about you, Ed? How you seeing this?
Crazy, they're 10-3. They're letting up 24 points a game. They're scoring 24 points a game. It's interesting. You start diving into the numbers, which I don't like to get caught up into, but I couldn't help it when I'm looking at the numbers for the defense on the Minnesota Vikings here. It's very interesting. They're tied 4th in the plus turnover differential. That means the defense is out there, ladies and gents, just, playing snatchies. You're just the bigger kid out there. You're just taking it, The defense is out there just snatching it, They're +6 on the season. That's tied for 4th in the league. That's pretty damn good. That's above average, I'd say. I don't see anybody arguing that. I mean, I don't know. You guys take the twatter and you argue a lot. I don't know. On there, you're typing in all kind of shit and arguing about stuff. But I think when you start to dig in a little bit more, that's where Minnesota can get a little hairy here. You got Minnesota dead last in a lot of other categories, though. They're tied for 4th in a differential. They're pretty good down on the goal line as well. The defense plays well down there with their back up against the wall. Sometimes dogs bite. But the thing that's huge is they're letting up a lot of yards rushing, a lot of yards passing. Overall yardage by a defense, they let up the most in the league. But with all that being said, I got to go Minnesota here. They got something to play for. Not saying Indy's not going to play for Mr. Saturday on Sunday. All right, but the reality of it is
on Saturday.
Huh?
On Saturday.
Saturday on Saturday. You got me. Sorry. Thank you for that mild slip up there, Brady. I think that they're going to come out. They're going to play for Saturday on Saturday, but they really don't have nothing to play for on Saturday, if you catch my drift. You know what I mean? So I'm going Minnesota Vikings here just because I think that they are the better team here and they got something to really play for other than just, to play for the coach that they just brought in here recently. I don't know. How about you, Nikki? I'm going to Minnesota Vikings because I think it's the right thing to do, people.
Yeah, it's hard to not pick Minnesota in this one. I was the letting you guys take your pick. I was looking at it. I almost convinced myself to take the Colts, but I can't take Jeff Saturday and the coaching staff in this one. But the 418 yards allowed for Minnesota is huge. 300 or almost 300 300 in the air and 115 on the ground. That's a big deal. And then
That's huge.
the Colts are only throwing for 20 less yards a game than the Vikings are, and they're rushing for more. So, I mean, honestly, the Colts could throw all over them this game and very well could rush all over them this game and sneak one away from the Vikings. But I don't trust the coaching staff ultimately. I think Minnesota's going to be a little more hungry, a little bit more ready to come out and win.
Watch out
I'm
for
going
the
Minnesota
snatches.
too, but I would love to see the Colts win.
Watch out for the snatches. You got to watch out.
The
Minnesota.
line on this one's a little weird for a 10-3 team.
4-0.
And what's the record of the Colts right now?
4-8-1.
4 win. What are they?
4-8.
4-8-1.
I mean, for only a 4-point spread and you're a home team, second in the NFC, it's a little fishy to me. So
I
think
can
there's
I can
maybe
provide you a little
skill in
insight.
there.
I can provide you a little insight on there because of all the 10-win teams in the league,
Hot take.
they have a negative point differential. They're the only ones. Everybody else has like a positive point differential. They have a -1. So they win the close games and then they get blown out by two big juggernauts, and they got a big loss to the Giants or the Lions last week. But their only wins are close one score games basically. So it's going to come down to one of those as well. They're going to win by a touchdown or a field goal against the Colts here.
It just shows how bad the defense has been because Kirk Cousins had a career/season day last week against the Lions and still lost.
Well said, Nicky.
Yeah.
Well said.
You did.
I don't
All
know
right.
how you do that and lose. That's crazy.
Yeah, they got a lot more to prove to be a deep playoff threat, but this game should be one for them to take.